Commander Voxentara of the Galactic Coalition's Special Operations Division drummed his 4 slender fingers against the polished obsidian table. The rhythmic tapping echoed through the otherwise silent war room aboard the flagship Inevitable Consequence. 26 pairs of eyes representing 13 different species stared at the holographic display hovering in the center of the table. "So you mean to tell me," Vox said, his voice dripping with more venom than a Krallian pit viper, that Subject 7734, a female human from the backwater planet Earth, has evaded our 4th assassination attempt. Strategic Director Quill Naravox, a blue-skinned Tellurian with 6 eyes arranged in a hexagonal pattern, cleared her throat nervously. "Yes, Commander. The Phantasm Squad was completely neutralized. We lost contact with all 6 operatives approximately 7 Earth hours ago." 7 hours? And I'm only hearing about this now? Vox slammed his fist on the table, causing several subordinates to flinch. "We sent 6 of our most lethal assassins. Assassins with genetic enhancements specifically designed for stealth and killing efficiency. Assassins equipped with technology that's thousands of years beyond anything those primitive humans possess. And they failed?" Quill's skin darkened the Tellurian equivalent of a blush. "The humans have grown more resourceful since our last attempt." "Resourceful?" Vox laughed, a harsh barking sound that held no humor. "They shouldn't even be able to detect our operatives, let alone neutralize them." "What exactly happened down there?" Tactical Officer Zern Malador, a reptilian Draken whose scales glittered under the harsh lighting, stepped forward. "We are still piecing together the sequence of events, Commander. But our surveillance satellites captured this transmission from Earth approximately 30 minutes after we lost contact with the Phantasm Squad." Zern tapped a sequence into his wrist computer and the holographic display shifted. Now it showed a human female, approximately 30 Earth years old, with dark hair cut short and fierce eyes that seemed to stare directly at everyone in the room simultaneously. She was seated casually in what appeared to be a primitive Earth dwelling, sipping from a ceramic container, completely relaxed. "Hello again, Commander Vox," the woman said with a smirk. "I hope you don't mind that I know your name. Your assassins are quite chatty when properly motivated. This is what? The 4th team you have sent? I'm starting to think you are not taking this seriously." She put down her drink and leaned forward. "Let me be clear. I have now captured all 24 of your operatives. They are alive, mostly comfortable, and extremely talkative. I know about the Coalition. I know about the Galactic Council. I know about your precious interstellar accord. And most importantly, I know why you want me dead." The woman stood up and walked closer to whatever primitive recording device she was using. "Here's Earth's official response to your continued attempts on my life. Try. Order." The transmission ended, leaving the war room in stunned silence. Vox's facial slits flared a sign of extreme agitation among his species. "How is this possible? Who is she?" Intelligence analyst Petra Kell, one of the few humanoid species in the room, rose from her seat. Her luminescent skin gave off a faint purple glow as she activated her neural interface. Subject 7734. Birth name Mira Kendall. Born in the human settlement of Portland in their nation-state United States. Nothing particularly remarkable about her background. Average academic performance. No military training we could detect. Her worked as what humans call a software developer for a company, called Quantum Nexus Technologies. Then how has she captured 24 of our elite operatives? Vox's voice had become dangerously quiet. Petra hesitated. That's where things get unusual. Approximately 2 Earth years ago, Mira Kendall's neural patterns changed dramatically. But changed how? We are not entirely sure. Our monitoring systems detected a massive spike in brain activity. Her neural complexity increased by roughly 400% virtually overnight, shortly after. She left her job and began working independently on various technological projects. Our analysts initially dismissed these projects as primitive human attempts at innovation. Petra paused, visibly uncomfortable. "Continue," Vox ordered. We now believe she's developed technology that shouldn't be possible given Earth's current development stage. Furthermore, she somehow managed to access and decrypt our secure communications networks. That's how she knew about the assassination teams before they arrived. Vox leaned back in his chair, processing this information. So what you are telling me is that this human, this Mira Kendall, has somehow leapfrogged her species' technological development by centuries, possibly millennia, in just 2 years? Yes, Commander, Petra confirmed. And based on our analysis of the captured operative's equipment, she's already begun reverse engineering our technology. The room erupted into alarmed murmurs. Vox silenced them with a raised hand. This confirms our worst fears, he said grimly. The Council was right to order her elimination. If she continues on this trajectory, Earth could bypass the normal development stages entirely. They could go from primitive planetary civilization to interstellar power in less than a decade. The balance of power in the galaxy would be completely destabilized. Commander Quill interjected. Perhaps we should consider initiating diplomatic contact instead. The Accord does allow for exceptional cases where... Absolutely not. Vox roared, rising to his full height. The Accord is clear: no species may be elevated beyond their natural evolutionary and technological progression. The consequences would be catastrophic. We have seen what happens when civilizations advance too quickly. Entire star systems reduced to cosmic debris. No. The Council's orders stand. Mira Kendall must be eliminated before she can share her knowledge with the rest of her species. He turned to military strategist Lark Thoran, a burly four-armed Valdarian. Lark, prepare the Wraith Division. I want our best operators. Full tactical package. Chrono disruptors, phase shift generators, molecular destabilizers, everything. We are done underestimating this human. Lark nodded grimly. It will be done, Commander. But there's one more thing you should know. He gestured to Zern, who manipulated the holographic display again. This time it showed a geographical representation of Earth with a blinking red dot marking Mira Kendall's location. But surrounding that dot, spreading outward like a web, were thousands of smaller blue dots. What am I looking at? Vox demanded. The blue dots represent communication nodes, Zern explained. Mira Kendall has been transmitting data packages to these locations for the past 18 Earth months. We initially thought they were meaningless, perhaps cover for her real activities. But we have recently decrypted some of this traffic. Zern's expression grew grave. She's been sharing information, Commander. Not everything she knows, but enough. Selective technological blueprints, scientific theories, mathematical formulas, all carefully chosen to accelerate Earth's development without causing societal collapse. How many humans have access to this information? Vox asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Based on our analysis, approximately 10,000 directly. But they are strategically positioned throughout their planetary power structures and scientific communities. The knowledge is spreading, Commander. Slowly, carefully, but irrevocably. Vox stared at the display, his mind racing. This was no longer just about eliminating one anomalous human. This was about containing a planetary contagion. We may need to consider more comprehensive measures, he said finally. Everyone in the room understood what he meant. Planetary sterilization was the Coalition's last resort for containing existential threats. It had only been deployed twice in the Coalition's 50,000-year history. With respect, Commander. Petra spoke up, her voice steady despite the radical suggestion. The Council explicitly rejected that option. Earth is categorized as a protected developing world under Section 7 of the Accord. Even with this threat, we cannot legally authorize planetary sterilization without a supermajority council vote. Vox glared at her, but knew she was right. Then we stick to the original plan. Eliminate Mira Kendall, then locate and neutralize her information network. Deploy containment teams to secure any advanced technology she's developed. He turned to face the entire room. Make no mistake, this is now the Coalition's highest priority operation. The next team will not fail. I will lead it personally, 12 hours later, Commander Vox Zentara stood in the deployment bay of the inevitable consequence, surrounded by the 12 most lethal beings in the known galaxy. The Wraith Division assassins so feared that most Coalition citizens believed them to be merely a myth. Each member had been genetically engineered and cybernetically enhanced for one purpose: efficient killing. Their bodies contained technology so advanced that some of it was classified even from Vox himself. They moved with uncanny grace, their specially designed combat suits rippling with adaptive camouflage that made them appear as little more than heat mirages. "Your target is Mira Kendall," Vox briefed them, displaying a holographic image of the human. "Do not underestimate her. She has already neutralized 24 elite operatives. We don't know exactly how she's doing it, but assume she has countermeasures for all standard Coalition tactics and technology." The leader of the Wraith Division, a being known only as Silence, nodded once. Silence belonged to an ancient species that communicated entirely through a form of telepathy. When they spoke directly into your mind, it felt like ice crystals forming inside your skull. "We understand the threat," Silence projected into Vox's mind. "This human has transcended her species' limitations. She represents an evolutionary branch that should not exist yet. We will prune it." "Remember, we need confirmation of elimination," Vox emphasized, "and retrieve her body if possible. At minimum, we need genetic verification of termination. And be alert for traps. She's expecting us." Silence's lipless mouth formed what might charitably be called a smile. "Commander, we are the Wraith Division. No target has ever detected our presence before death. Not in 3,000 years of operations." "There's always a first time," Vox replied grimly. "Stay vigilant." The 12 Wraiths boarded their stealth insertion craft, a vessel so advanced it could pass through planetary defense systems without triggering so much as a sensor ghost. The craft was essentially a bubble of manipulated spacetime, allowing it to exist slightly out of phase with normal reality. As the bay doors opened to the void of space, Vox had an unsettling thought. What if they failed too? What if this human was truly as exceptional as the evidence suggested? For the first time in his 200-year career, Commander Vox Zentara felt something unfamiliar: doubt. The insertion craft vanished, not with a dramatic flash or sound, but by simply ceasing to reflect light, a perfect predator slipping into the darkness. Vox returned to the bridge, where Strategic Director Quill waited with the rest of the command staff. "Wraith Division is away," he announced. "Estimated time to target, 3 Earth hours." Quill nodded, her 6 eyes blinking in their unsettling, non-synchronized pattern. "Commander, while the operation is underway, perhaps we should discuss contingency plans, if the Wraith Division fails." "They won't fail," Vox interrupted sharply. "Of course, but proper planning requires." "Fine. What contingencies did you have in mind?" Vox conceded. Quill brought up a detailed schematic of Earth's solar system. "We have been analyzing potential approaches. Given the restrictions against planetary sterilization, we have developed 3 alternative strategies." She highlighted Earth's moon. "First, a focused gravitational manipulation to destabilize their moon's orbit. This would cause massive tidal disruptions, flooding coastal population centers where much of their technological infrastructure is concentrated. It would set their civilization back significantly without violating the Accord's prohibition on direct planetary attacks." Vox considered this. "Casualty projection? Approximately 30% of their population, primarily in coastal regions. Most importantly, 78% of Mira Kendall's information network would be affected." "Next option?" "Gen." Quill highlighted Earth's star, a targeted stellar flare. "We can use the Consequences stellar manipulator to induce a coronal mass ejection precisely calculated to overwhelm Earth's magnetic field. This would destroy their electrical infrastructure and most digital data storage, effectively erasing much of Mira Kendall's distributed knowledge. Casualties? Minimal immediate deaths, but substantial secondary mortality from infrastructure collapse. Estimated 15 to 20% population reduction over the following year. Their technological civilization would require decades to recover." Vox nodded slowly. And the third option? Quill seemed hesitant. The third option is more controversial. We have detected quantum entanglement signatures emanating from Mira Kendall's location. Our physicists believe she may have developed some form of rudimentary quantum communication network. If so, we could deploy a quantum resonance cascade. Even Vox looked shocked. That technology is forbidden except in extreme circumstances, but collateral damage to local space-time would be significant, Quill admitted, but contained to their solar system. And it would guarantee that any advanced technology developed by Mira Kendall would be rendered permanently non-functional. Before Vox could respond, an alarm blared across the bridge. The tactical display flashed red, indicating an emergency transmission from the Wraith Division's insertion craft. Report, Vox demanded. Tactical Officer Zern worked frantically at his console. Commander, we are receiving a distress signal from the insertion team. Audio only, heavily degraded. Put it through. The bridge speakers crackled with static. Then a voice unmistakably belonging to silence came through in broken fragments. Detected on approach, impossible. She knew. Countermeasures we have never. Retreat. All units retard. The transmission cut off abruptly. Get them back. Vox ordered. Zern's scales had paled to an ashen gray. Commander, the insertion craft, it's gone. What do you mean gone? It's no longer registering on any of our detection systems. No debris field. No energy signature. It's as if it simply ceased to exist. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. The Wraith Division, the most elite killing force in the galaxy, had just been neutralized in seconds before they even reached their target. The silence was broken by an incoming transmission alert. The source, Earth. On screen, Vox ordered, his voice hollow. The main view screen activated, showing Mira Kendall once again. This time, she wasn't in her dwelling. She appeared to be in some sort of laboratory surrounded by technology that shouldn't exist on Earth. Some of it looked disturbingly like Coalition tech, but modified, improved. Hello again, Commander Vox, she said pleasantly, as if greeting an old friend. I'm sorry about your Wraith Division. Truly I am. They were magnificent creations, the pinnacle of your genetic engineering and cybernetic enhancement capabilities. It seems like such a waste. She gestured to a containment field behind her, where all 12 members of the Wraith Division floated, unconscious but apparently unharmed. Don't worry, they are fine. Just taking a little nap while I study their enhancements. Fascinating work, really. Your scientists deserve commendation. Mira stepped closer to the camera. Now, I think it's time we had a proper conversation. No more assassination attempts. No stellar flares or lunar orbit destabilizations or quantum resonance cascades. Yes, I heard all that. Your encryption is quaint. Her expression grew serious. You have two options, Commander. Either you can come down here yourself, alone and unarmed, for a civilized discussion about Earth's future in the galactic community, or I can demonstrate exactly how much of your technology I have already mastered. She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You have 1 hour to decide. Oh, and Commander, try harder next time. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge crew of the inevitable consequence staring at a blank screen, the unthinkable reality dawning on them. They weren't the hunters anymore. They were the prey. The war room of the inevitable consequence had devolved into barely controlled chaos. Officers shouted over one another while tactical displays flashed urgent warnings. Commander Vox stood perfectly still amid the storm, his outer composure betraying none of the turmoil within. Silence, he commanded, and the room immediately fell quiet. Options. Ibiamias. Strategic Director Quill Naravox stepped forward. Commander, this is unprecedented. The Wraith Division has never failed. Not once in 3 millennia. I'm aware of our history, Director. I asked for options. Quill's 6 eyes blinked nervously. We have 3 courses of action available. First, we could retreat and request full Council intervention. Second, we could proceed with one of the contingency plans we discussed: stellar flare, lunar destabilization, or quantum resonance. Third, she hesitated. Speak freely, Director. Third, you could accept her invitation. Go down alone. The suggestion hung in the air like a toxic gas. No one spoke for several seconds. That's suicide, Tactical Officer Zern finally said. Commander, we have already seen what she did to our most elite operatives. And she's clearly baiting you into a trap. Intelligence analyst Petra Kell cleared her throat. Actually, based on psychological analysis of her communications, I believe she genuinely wants to talk. There's been no indication of malice in her actions so far. She's neutralized our operatives, but hasn't killed any of them. Yet, Zern countered, she's holding them for leverage. Or study, Petra suggested. She seems more curious than vengeful. Vox raised a hand to silence the debate. What about our planetary defenses? Could we withstand whatever demonstration she threatened? Military strategist Lark Thorin stepped forward, his 4 arms crossed in front of his massive chest. Unknown, Commander. Without knowing what coalition technology she's mastered, we can't assess the threat level. But given that she neutralized a phase-shifted insertion craft and captured the Wraith Division intact, we must assume her capabilities are substantial. Vox gazed at the tactical display showing Earth rotating peacefully below them. Such a primitive world to have produced such an exceptional anomaly. The Accord had been created precisely to prevent this scenario: species advancing too quickly, gaining power without the accompanying ethical development to wield it responsibly. Yet here they were, facing a human who had somehow leapfrogged millennia of natural development. And what had she done with this power? Not conquered her world, not destroyed her enemies. She'd shared knowledge, carefully and strategically. That was perhaps the most puzzling aspect. If Mira Kendall had simply kept her advancements to herself, the Coalition might never have noticed. It was her deliberate effort to elevate her entire species that had triggered their intervention protocols. Prepare a shuttle, Vox announced. I'm going down. A stunned silence fell over the war room. Commander, with respect, Zern began. Your objection is noted. Officer Zern, Vox cut him off. Director Quill, you have command in my absence. If I don't return or make contact within 3 Earth hours, proceed with the stellar flare option. Yes, Commander, Quill replied, her voice tight with concern. As Vox turned to leave, Petra stepped forward. Commander, if I may, a suggestion. He paused. Quickly, analyst, bring her a gift. A gift? Vox's facial slits flared in confusion. Yes, humans place significant cultural value on gift exchanges during first diplomatic contacts. It would signal your sincere desire for peaceful negotiation. Vox considered this. What would you suggest? Something of personal value to you. Not technology, she clearly doesn't need that. Something cultural. 30 minutes later, Commander Vox Centara sat alone in a small, unmarked shuttle, descending toward Earth's atmosphere. The diplomatic vessel was unarmed as requested, though he'd insisted on maintaining basic shielding. If Mira Kendall had wanted to destroy him, she could have done so regardless of his defenses. The shuttle's navigation system followed the coordinates provided in her transmission, guiding him to a remote mountainous region in what humans called Norway. As he broke through the cloud cover, he saw a single structure nestled among towering pine trees and sheer cliffs, a modest dwelling with a large glass dome attached to one side. His shuttle's sensors detected no weapons systems, no defense grid, no energy barriers. Just a single human life sign. The landing was automatic, the shuttle settling gently onto a flat stone platform that seemed designed specifically for this purpose. As the engines powered down, Vox took a moment to center himself. In 2 centuries of service to the Coalition, he'd never imagined he would willingly walk unarmed into the dwelling of a target. The shuttle's hatch opened, releasing a hiss of equalizing pressure. Cold mountain air rushed in, carrying the unfamiliar scent of pine and snow. Vox adjusted his environmental controls slightly and stepped out. Mira Kendall stood waiting for him, dressed simply in what he recognized as casual Earth attire, jeans and a sweater, according to his cultural database. She looked exactly as she had in the transmissions, utterly unremarkable for her species, except for her eyes. Those held an intelligence that seemed to strip away his carefully constructed defenses. "Commander Vox Zentara," she said, extending a hand in the human greeting gesture. "Thank you for coming. I'm Mira Kendall, though you already know that." Vox stared at her hand momentarily before extending his own four-fingered appendage. The contact was brief but cordial. "You have put me in an unprecedented position, Mira Kendall," he said, watching her reaction carefully. She smiled. "Please, just Mira. And I could say the same about you and your coalition. Come inside. It's cold out here for your physiology." She led him into the glass dome, which he now saw was some sort of laboratory and living space combined. The technology inside was a bizarre mixture of primitive Earth components and clearly advanced systems that shouldn't exist on this planet. Most disturbing was the fact that he recognized coalition design principles in some of the equipment, but altered, improved. "Tea?" she offered, gesturing to a seating area with a view of the mountains. "I cannot consume Earth beverages," he replied stiffly. "Oh, I know," she said with a small laugh. "I synthesized this specifically for your biology. It's perfectly safe, I promise. I have been studying your species extensively." The casual way she said this sent a chill through Vox's spine ridges. The coalition had been studying Earth for centuries, but this human had apparently turned the tables in mere months. He sat across from her, accepting the offered beverage cautiously. His implants automatically analyzed the liquid, confirming it was indeed tailored to his physiology. Not just safe, but actually formulated with nutrients beneficial to his species. "Before we begin," Vox said, reaching into a compartment in his uniform, "I have brought something." A gesture of diplomatic intent. He placed a small object on the table between them. It was an iridescent crystal sphere, roughly the size of a human palm, containing what appeared to be swirling nebula gases. Mira's eyes widened slightly. "It's beautiful," she said, picking it up carefully. "A memento sphere from the Caledon Nebula? These are incredibly rare. Family heirlooms among your people, if I understand correctly." Vox couldn't hide his surprise. "You know of our customs?" "As I said, I have been studying. This was your mother's, wasn't it? Given to her by her mother, and so on back 15 generations. Thank you, Commander. I understand the significance of this gift." She placed the sphere back on the table, treating it with appropriate reverence. "Now, shall we discuss why your coalition has sent 36 assassins to kill me over the past 6 months?" Vox straightened. "You know why. You have violated the natural order of technological progression. Your species is thousands of years away from developing the technology you now possess, under the Interstellar Accord, which governs all spacefaring civilizations. Such advancements must occur naturally, through a species' own discovery and innovation." Mira leaned back in her chair. "And who decided what natural progression means? Or who gave the coalition the right to determine how quickly a species should advance?" "The Accord was established after the cataclysm of Vega," Vox explained, surprised to find himself engaging in what felt like a genuine exchange. "When the vegan civilization developed faster-than-light technology before they had evolved beyond tribal warfare, they triggered a cascade failure in local spacetime. 3 star systems and trillions of lives were lost. The Accord prevents such tragedies." "I understand the reasoning," Mira said, nodding. "But there's a fundamental flaw in your approach. You are assuming all species follow the same developmental pattern." She stood and walked to a holographic display, activating it with a gesture. A timeline appeared, showing Earth's technological development over thousands of years. "Humans are different. Commander, we don't develop technology in a linear fashion. We make leaps, intuitive jumps. Sometimes we develop nuclear weapons before we fully understand nuclear fusion. Sometimes we create artificial intelligence before we understand our own consciousness. Our path has never been orderly." Vox studied the timeline, Even accounting for your species' irregular development pattern, what you have achieved is impossible. No human could have made these advances alone, not in 2 years. Mira smiled enigmatically. You are right. I didn't do it alone. She gestured, and a section of the laboratory wall became transparent, revealing a chamber beyond. Inside was what appeared to be a meteorite, roughly 2 meters in diameter, surrounded by scientific equipment. 2 years ago, this crashed near my home, Mira explained. It wasn't a natural object. It was a data repository, Commander. Seed vault of knowledge sent by, well, I'm still not entirely sure who sent it. But it contained scientific principles, mathematical formulas, technological blueprints, knowledge from thousands of civilizations across the galaxy, including yours. Vox stood abruptly. Impossible. Such technology is forbidden. The great repository was destroyed eons ago, precisely to prevent this scenario. Apparently not all of it was destroyed, Mira said calmly. And it chose me. Chose you? Were you? The data can only be accessed by minds that pass certain criteria: ethical parameters, cognitive flexibility, emotional stability. I touched it, and suddenly I could understand everything. Concepts that should have been beyond human comprehension became clear to me. Vox paced the room, his mind racing. If she was telling the truth, this changed everything. The repository was a semi-mythical construct, created by the first ones before they transcended physical form. It contained the collective knowledge of the earliest spacefaring civilizations, preserved as a failsafe against extinction-level events. If what you are saying is true, he said slowly, then you possess knowledge that could destabilize the entire galactic order. Or improve it, Mira countered. Commander, I have accessed your coalition's historical archives. I know about the Council's internal power struggles. I know about the suppression of technologies that threatened established economic systems. I know about the guided development programs where promising species were deliberately steered away from technologies that might have made them too competitive. She stepped closer to him. The Accord was created with noble intentions, but it's been corrupted. It's no longer about protecting developing species. It's about maintaining the status quo for those already in power. Vox wanted to deny her accusations, but centuries in coalition service had shown him enough to know she wasn't entirely wrong. The ideals of the Accord had indeed been compromised over time. What do you want? He asked finally. Recognition, Mira replied simply. Earth wants a seat at the galactic table. Not as a primitive curiosity or a protected developing world, but as equals. We have something to offer, Commander. Human innovation combined with repository knowledge could solve problems your coalition has struggled with for millennia. And if we refuse? Mira's expression hardened slightly. Then I continued distributing knowledge to carefully selected humans around the world. Brilliant minds who can use it responsibly. Within a decade, Earth develops its own FTL capability. Within 2, we are exploring nearby star systems. Within 3, we are a spacefaring civilization whether you recognize us or not. And we will have done it without your guidance or permission. She held his gaze. But I'd prefer cooperation over confrontation. Despite your assassination attempts, I don't consider the coalition my enemy, just misguided in its approach to us. Vox considered her words carefully. If she was being truthful about the repository, then Earth's accelerated development wasn't a violation of natural order, it was a deliberate intervention by the first ones themselves. And if the first ones had chosen to elevate humanity, did the coalition have the right to interfere? I will need to consult with the Council, he said finally. This situation falls outside my authority to resolve unilaterally. Mira nodded. I understand, but I will need assurances that there will be no further assassination attempts or contingency plans involving stellar flares while you consult. Vox narrowed his eyes. You continue to monitor our communications. Of course. It's only prudent given the circumstances. After a moment, Vox nodded. Very well. I propose a conditional armistice. No further action against you or Earth while negotiations proceed. In return, you limit your knowledge distribution to non-military applications only. Agreed, Mira said without hesitation. And as a gesture of good faith, she made another gesture, and the wall behind her became transparent, revealing a chamber where the Wraith Division assassins were now conscious, seated comfortably around what appeared to be a meal suited to their various physiologies. Your operatives are free to return with you. They have been treated well, though I did take the liberty of disabling some of their more lethal implants. For my safety and theirs. Vox stared at the assassins, the most feared killers in the galaxy, calmly eating what appeared to be a feast, seemingly unconcerned by their captivity. What did you do to them? He asked suspiciously. We talked, Mira said simply. I explained my position. Showed them the repository. They are intelligent beings, Commander. Once they understood the full context of the situation, most of them recognized the futility of their mission. As if on cue, Silence, the Wraith Division leader, looked up and locked eyes with Vox across the divide. The telepathic message that entered Vox's mind was clear and calm. She speaks truth, Commander. The first ones have chosen. We would be wise to listen. Vox turned back to Mira, truly seeing her for the first time. Not as a threat to be eliminated, but as a messenger, perhaps even an opportunity. I will take your proposal to the Council, he said formally. But I should warn you they may not be as open-minded as I am. Mira smiled, and there was genuine warmth in it this time. Then perhaps you should take something more persuasive than just my words. She handed him a small data crystal. This contains solutions to 3 problems the Coalition has been struggling with for centuries. The Bellerophon plague cure, the mathematical proof for unified field theory, and the stabilization algorithm for controlled quantum tunneling. Vox's hand trembled slightly as he accepted the crystal. Any one of these solutions would be considered priceless by the Council. Why would you give me this? Because Earth doesn't want to conquer the galaxy, Commander. We want to join it, as equals and partners. This is just a sample of what that partnership could look like. As Vox prepared to depart with his liberated assassins, Mira walked him back to his shuttle. The Wraith Division followed at a respectful distance, their legendary menace somehow diminished. One last question, Vox said as the shuttle door opened. You could have killed us all. You clearly have the capability. Why didn't you? Mira looked out at the mountains, the setting sun painting them in brilliant orange and purple hues. Because that's not who we want to be, she said softly. Humanity has enough violence in its history. If we are going to join the galactic community, I want it to be as builders, not destroyers. She turned back to him. Besides, Commander, what would that prove? That we can be just as ruthless as everyone else? There are better ways to make a point. Vox boarded his shuttle, the data crystal secure in his uniform. As the door closed, he heard Mira's final words. Next time, don't send assassins, send diplomats. It's much more productive. As the shuttle rose into the darkening sky, the Commander Vox Centaura looked down at the single dwelling growing smaller below him, one insignificant structure on an insignificant planet that had somehow managed to change everything. He opened a channel to the inevitable consequence. Director Quill, aboard all contingency plans. I'm returning with the Wraith Division and a proposal. A proposal, Commander? Quill's voice crackled with confusion. Yes, Director. It seems Earth has sent us a message. And this time we are going to listen.